Welcome, Academy members, to today's webinar. We're going to focus on online security monitoring. We've put our security measures in place. Now, how do we know if it's working? What kind of tools are available? And how important is it to be monitoring to know the status of our security? My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. We're honored to participate with the Academy after many, many years of providing IT services for the Academy and for many, many healthcare organizations in the greater Cincinnati area. The goal of today is to inform. We're not trying to sell services. Of course, we offer services, but this is educational content. Thanks for joining. So we're going to move quickly. Most of you who are attending already understand the problem. You're the, quote, smart ones. You know that security is important. So very short discussion about what are the protection layers we put in place. The topic of today is going to be online security monitoring. We're going to look at how we can see from afar what's working and what is not working on a network. So without delay, some of you have known PBSI for many, many years. Thank you so much for your long-term support. Some of you, this may be your first exposure to PBSI. So we provide technology services for healthcare and business in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana with a long history and a large number of qualified staff who've been with us for a long time. Note that among our staff, 27 of our team have been with us for 10 or more years. So the goal with all clients is to help clients use technology successfully. So a part of that is proactive IT security monitoring. So I'm going to look at that today and show you how that works. So we understand the internet is an increasingly dangerous place. Hackers, more and more in healthcare, have learned to dollarize data. I'm going to do a short demonstration that will bring that point home today in a possibly alarming way. My intent is not to alarm, but to inform. So ransomware is the smaller term for the bigger picture of malware, software that's installed on any one of our PCs or servers, which intent is to do something that we don't want. Some of it is fairly straightforward, like advertising information capturing. Some of it is more deceiving, and the important thing to understand is that the public messaging of ransomware, you get a message on your screen that says your files are encrypted, you need to pay a ransom. That is the low percentage of infections. Infections are much more frequent. That infestation takes place and the software sits for months or years collecting data and sending it to the owner of the malware, and you don't know you're infected. That's by far the most dangerous. So we're going to see how we can identify if any of that's taking place. So the big picture, we put our securities in place. We have our firewall, our antivirus, our auto patch updates. We have educational content covering those. We're not going to talk about those in detail today. Today we're going to talk about online monitoring and how we can find different areas of importance of what is contained on our network. And employee education, of course, is a big component of this. That's not today's topic. So the components of overall security, we put our firewall in place, we've educated our employees, our patches are up to date. We're going to look at monitoring today, and we're going to talk briefly about education. So that's the big picture. I'm not going to focus today. We have in another webinar, and you're welcome to contact us for content about security training. So we have a really effective training protocol that teaches employees in healthcare what to do and not to do. And that includes email safety principles, paying attention to what's solicited versus unsolicited, don't get your news from your email, don't use public Wi-Fi, many important concepts, again, not the topic for today. Today, we're going to look at online security monitoring. So there are different tools available on the internet that security companies and IT companies use. The basic idea, why would you want monitoring in place? Because you're busy and you're not paying attention. Plus, on a given PC, we can't really see. I can't see sitting at my PC the status of many things that can be revealed online. So I'm going to go to the online monitoring tool we use at PBSI. And what you're seeing, first of all, I'm going to limit the content that's displayed to devices at PBSI. So when I've selected a customer on the left-hand side, the things that appear on the right-hand side of the screen are strictly for that particular customer. So what we're looking at, I'm going to describe this as the north panel, and this is the south panel. I'm not trying to make you an expert in how to use this dashboard or to be a technician, but the purpose is to be clear about what's on your screen. So a technician is either looking at servers, workstations, mobile devices, other services that are running, or status of other network devices. So right now we're displaying servers. So on the north panel, these are all the different servers at PBSI. So each one has a different function, and some organizations have one server or none or two or three. We happen to have more. So if I pick on one of these servers in the north panel, then the contents displayed in the south panel give me details about what is being monitored. So here's a yellow item that indicates there may be a performance issue going on. So I can scroll up and down. A technician at the highest level is getting alerts for big picture things like a hard drive's down, a virus has taken hold of a certain PC. They're getting alerts, but when they're not getting alerts, they're paying attention to the details of green, yellow, and red. So what we're looking for is green. That means everything seems to be fine, and you'll see when we see different colors that there may be something to look into. So the job of the technician is to go beyond the alerts to what can I learn under the surface that might be something we can improve performance. So when we look at servers, I'm going to pick one server in particular at PBSI, and this happens to be a concentrator that we use for storing protected internal documents. So on that server, we not only report the facts about the server, like storage, percent of growth of the hard drive, performance monitoring issues, we monitor hardware, things like that, but we monitor critical events and we monitor other network devices. So we have a firewall in place, more than one actually, with incoming and outgoing bandwidth monitoring, and the reporting of that is connected to the server. So other network devices can be reported in a way that's designed. So in this case, if I click on this Sonic wall, it gives me information about what we've considered to be unacceptable, and then there's an acceptable range. These are limits that are set. And if a technician sees, well, these seem to be fine, the current bandwidth in use, incoming and outgoing, sees no issues, but if there were an issue, they can drill in. So this is one facet of online monitoring where on the left-hand side, we see the last 24 hours of activity for whatever's being monitored. In this case, it's the bandwidth of a firewall. On the right-hand side, the last 8 days of activity. So we can see a spike that might be explained by software update or online backup that took place. So a technician is able to drill into the history. So that's kind of the important thing, is there's an alert at the highest level, and then there's information to drill into, and we can get to audit logs and all kinds of things. So what the technician is looking for, some of them are security things, some of them are performance things, like failed logins would be one that would be the indicator of an attempt at intrusion. So sometimes we do see this on a server if something gets past the firewall and that causes an alert, and we learn where the attack is coming from and block IP addresses. So the importance here is not necessarily the details of what a technician will do when they see something, but that there is monitoring taking place. So here's one where performance is at issue currently, so we can look for this particular unit what its processor utilization is for each CPU and what the disk activity looks like. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I simply wanted to identify that monitoring involves this. It involves the establishing of a software reporting agent on each monitored device. So you put it on each server, on each PC, and we also monitor other network devices that report through SNMTP, technical term that's not important, but it's a communication protocol where we can check the status of various network devices. So each of the devices that are able, PCs and servers and phones, are sending in a message every 15 minutes or every 1 hour, depending on how we have it set, that display the current status, and that information is transported to a secure internet site, and it's on that site that the dashboard technicians are looking. So we can see that all of these services are running. We can see if the online backup ran last night. We can see if the website is active and has had any downtime. We can see the status of toner on printers. We can see the status of whether a switch is working correctly and if there were any port locks. Not to get too technical, but if there were something going on where there was a lot of traffic all of a sudden on one of the ports of the switch, it could be a incident that means there's some malware running on one of the PCs that's connected to that switch, and we can drill that down. So the UPS is working fine, and so the message there is that there are lots of things being monitored and they're being alerted at the high level. So I want to start talking more about security, and we're going to move from servers to PCs, because PCs, frankly, is where the action is. So on the top here are all the PCs at PBSI, and the most problematic PC would be here at the top. So here we see something red. So if I select that PC, I can get down to the bottom and find out what it is that there was a vulnerability scan that failed. So a technician would see this, they'd reinstitute the scan, and this is kind of the ongoing thing. You think things work perfectly, well, they don't just automatically work perfectly all the time. That's why we have alerts, that's why we have technicians that are addressing things. So I'm now going to pick on my particular PC. So I'm going to select only PCs at PBSI that have the name Ray in them, and I'm going to select my desktop. So this, in fact, is the PC that I'm sitting in front of when I'm speaking to you. So if I'm a technician on the dashboard, I can see all kinds of things about Ray's PC, whether things are running, how much disk space, what kind of events have been reported, any vulnerabilities that have been identified. Ray sitting at his PC, unless he has this dashboard, can't really see any of this. At the dashboard level, I can see that there's a pending Windows service patch. So patch management is something that is really important. All patches need to be kept up to date on not just antivirus, but on Windows, Adobe, Apple, all major software products. When there are security patch releases, they must be automatically updated in as close to real time as is comfortable. There are reasons to set timing, but in any event, the important thing here is that the status of each of these is understood. So there will be a schedule where this patch will be updated tonight automatically, and so a technician doesn't really need to do anything. The technician can see the physical assets. So here's the hardware. We know there's 8 gigabytes of RAM on this PC, there's a webcam and so forth, and we know what software is installed on this piece. So Adobe Acrobat and the monitoring agent and so forth. So there are various software products and updates to them that have occurred, so a technician can see, are there games installed, or are there things that shouldn't be there that might impact the performance of this PC. A technician can see the status of any virus activity. So here is where, if something had happened on this PC where there was a current virus, that would have not only issued an alert, but that would show up, and you'll see here displayed the status of anything that's identified. So just FYI, the first time I saw this status where there was a status of detected, I thought, whoa, you know, if I ever see one, it should say deleted or quarantined. These would be indicators that the scanning agent sees that there have been emails received on these dates on Ray's PC, where if something had been clicked in that email, it would generate a virus. So something's been detected, it's not been executed, it's not dangerous, and let this acted on. And for demonstration purposes, I keep some of these emails on my PC so we can see where is it stored. It's stored in my Outlook and so forth. So you don't care about that, but simply the idea that all threats, possible threats, and the status of those are maintained on a regular basis. So that's an overview of what the monitoring does. Now I'm going to delve into a couple of details here and get really specific. So what would be an indicator that something is going wrong on a network that we couldn't see? Well, one of those things is we may have had compromised passwords. So I'm going to do a demonstration of a tool that is very frightening. I'm going to have to sign in again because it logged me out. I had to dual factor authentication, so I have to go to my iPhone and get my authentication password, and you'll see why this requires secure authentication when I display it. So I'm changing topics from basic monitoring to a specific kind of monitoring we do, which is, oh, doesn't want to let me in with that code. Fine. These things expire every few seconds, so. We'll log into this authentication site. Try to do this. It's about to expire in 2 more seconds. So pardon me while I wait 1 more second now. I'll do this 1 more time and it will log me in. But I want to show you this very frightening search. Wait a minute, did I enter that wrong? Yes, I did. I can't talk and type. There we go. Sorry. So I'm going to do now a live data search of a tool that we've signed up for as a security company that gives us access to the dark side of the internet. So the so-called dark web. It's very surprising. We were absolutely shocked and continue to be by seeing the number of email addresses and passwords that are exposed and for sale out there on the internet. So I'm not going to expose anybody else. I'm going to expose PBSI. This, when I saw this demonstrated, caused me that day to sign up for this service as a security reseller. What I just did is I looked at PBSI's domain, and what it displayed are all of the passwords within the last year, starting last June, moving forward. These are all real PBSI email addresses, including my own, and it displays the real password that is available for sale out on the internet. So there are things that are shown here, ID theft forum. I really have no idea what that is, but it's a place where data is for sale. This one was captured from a web page. These were captured from social media. This one was a breach. This one was resulting from a keylog phishing attempt. So what we've learned is that all of these exposed passwords happened for some reason, but they may not be the fault of that person. For example, because the event that occurred might have occurred on somebody's social media site and was, as a result, somebody going to that site was pulled in and their password captured. So the important thing to know is that out there on the internet are these live email addresses and passwords, and in each case, these actually were passwords that were used. And when I saw my normal password, I thought, holy moly, how in the world did that happen? I'm very careful about security, but sometime, somewhere, and it may have been years ago, my password was captured. So this is one aspect of monitoring that isn't typical, but we've learned to do this for clients. It's a really, really important thing so that we can identify, and we can do this for non-clients. If you would like us to take your domain and do this test and share with you the actual passwords, we're happy to do that. So another thing that happens, you see these long passwords. Some of these are encrypted passwords. So I'm going to go to a different website that unfortunately is free. In other words, anybody who has this information could do this. They can take one of these passwords, anyone. So about 50% of the time we found this works to unencrypt a password. So I'm going to now have it go look for those two encrypted passwords and see if it can decrypt them on the spot. And so it goes out and it tests those two encrypted passwords, and one of them it can't encrypt, the other one it did, and that's the password that was there. So obviously I would not be sharing any of this information if we hadn't already solved these issues. But one aspect of online monitoring that is available as a one-time thing, if you'd like, we're happy to do this for you. We can identify what passwords that you have in your domain have been compromised. We can also do individual passwords. So we already know that this password has been compromised, and so we can go look individually. So if you have a Gmail address or something that isn't connected to a domain, you can see those individually. Okay, online monitoring. One more detail I'm going to demonstrate, which I think is really helpful to understand. I'm going to look at something called data breach risk intelligence. So it's one thing to have your network monitored to know that everything's okay. You don't have to be paying attention. It's another thing to scan your network periodically. We do this nightly at PBSI and for many clients to identify any protected health information, or in fact PCI compliance information, social security numbers, dates of birth, credit card numbers, driver's license numbers, passport IDs, anything that is stored on the network that is not encrypted. So most of us in the healthcare community, we have an EHR in place and our data inside of that is encrypted. We wouldn't expect to find any unprotected data within the EHR, but it's on the C drives where we're downloading. We have a transcription PC, we have a report or a PDF file or an Excel file where we pulled some data off to do some analysis, and all of a sudden we have some exposed data. So I'm going to identify how can we look at that and see what's out there. So the idea is, as long as our network's protected, this data that's stored on our PCs really isn't vulnerable. But what if one of our PCs acquired ransomware or malware that started scanning the network for documents? The electronic tool I'm going to show you now has the ability to find electronic documents why would we think that a malware tool couldn't do the same thing? So I'm going to go now again to my PC. I'm going to view the results of the scan that was done on my PC last night, and it's going to identify that it found some unprotected data, which this tool says is worth $1,400. So there is a valuation method on the internet. If you have a name for sale, it's worth nothing. If you add a social security number to it, it's a little more. If you add a credit card number to it, if you add a CCV number to it, each iteration of additional information is worth more and more. If you have healthcare data, then it's worth more and more. So it found what it thinks to be 1,400, and we have PCs. When we first do this scan, we find PCs with $273,000 worth of information because it's a long list of social security numbers. But on my PC, I'm going to go down here. There were 2 files that it found, and I leave these here for demonstrating. And the first is a file that's on my documents directory. That's the name of the file is it's a sample file with dummy SS numbers. And sure enough, it found what it thought to be social security numbers. But if you see the last digits, they're really fake numbers. They're simply the right number of digits and in the format of a social security number, and it found what appeared to be a date of birth. And so sure enough, that file exists there. It found it. So this other, though, is an example of something more. So this is actually stored on my OneDrive. So it's not on my C drive at all. And this is another file that I keep there with a couple of dates of birth that are real. And so the same thing happens. Anytime you have a PDF report or an Excel file, anything that's not encrypted, this scan will find it. And this can be done on a one-time basis. So you clean up the data, you get rid of it. But what it completely eliminates is the need to go to each C drive and sit down and ploddingly go through each unit. So some of the places that it has found data that, if you think about it, you could never go and do this yourself manually. So it finds data in recycle bins. Okay, you'd expect that. It finds data in Outlook and Outlook attachments, but it also finds data in archived Outlook files. So from 3 years ago, there was an attachment that I sent on an email 3 years ago. It would find that in my archived Outlook PST file. We had a case where we have a PC that's used by an office manager where we used to have an office manager with that PC. It's been several years ago, but it found an attachment that was sent from our old office manager's PC several years ago that was still an unencrypted attachment sitting there in the archived Outlook. So the ability to find data out there that needs to be protected is a really, really big thing. And for those of us who undergo security risk assessments and increasingly HIPAA security audits, we know that getting ahead and having done the due diligence to find this information is really useful. So another component of security monitoring. So we looked at online security monitoring as a general tool. We looked at a tool to find unprotected data. We did a exposed password check. And then just real quickly, the idea of online backup. Online backup is a well-established tool. It's available by lots of vendors. So we use a tool that has ransomware protection built in, where it not only is online backup, and here's each of the last 30 days of backup, and we can see with the green line that it completed successfully. If there were any unsuccessfuls or partials, like today it hasn't completed its backup yet, we'd be able to drill into any of these days and find out what was backed up on that day and how long did it take, and were there any errors, and I could retrieve files from that day. But in addition to this online backup, the first starting place of this particular max backup, it stores your backup in an encrypted file on a removable device connected to whatever's being backed up. So your server or your PC or whatever. The fact that it encrypts the local copy is important because ransomware will try and encrypt anything that it gets a hold of. And if you have a backup there and it encrypts your backup, then you're hosed. So encrypting the backup in a very secure way means that if you ever did acquire ransomware, at least your local backup would be protected, and then it separates that local backup and backs up a second time to the internet every day. So every night you get a local backup that's encrypted, and you also get an online backup. So there are a number of tools like this that are available. So having online backup that's appropriately configured is an important part, and you can monitor whether that's working effectively. So you see the common theme here is that we're able to not just set it up, we're able to see if it's working. So risk intelligence scanning and online backup, I'm not going to delve into details. I'll mention one other thing. We're about to be finished. We said 30 minutes. We will be finished before 30 minutes are over, in other words, within 5 minutes. I'm going to mention security training. So we do a lot with security training, but so do a lot of organizations. I hope you have a security training program in place where you train each person and you log the results and you train new employees and you have refresher and you have testing. One of the tools that we've begun using, we're a reseller for this product called KnowBe4. They're an excellent security content provider, and you can't purchase their services unless you have at least 100 seats. So we divvy that up, and we have lots and lots of small organizations where we can provide this cost-effective security training. And what happens is we can do periodic phish tests, ongoing training emails, phish irregularly, track the results, customized training, video training, email attachments. It's a really, really effective group of security content that's available very economically, because security training is the source of most breaches. Those exposed emails that we saw, and we see this over and over with organizations, they weren't a failure of the security tools that were put in place. They were a failure of employee behavior. So training is the way you prevent emails ever being exposed. So security training, it's really important that you have a protocol there. So we know that security is important. All of you who are in attendance, I hope that you have found value from the information today. We're happy to provide more information, but I just want to reiterate, thanks to our relationship with the Academy, we're not trying to sell product today, we're trying to inform. And I hope this has been helpful. So we are finished. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask them, but I hope everybody has a good day. You are welcome to log off, and thank you very much for your attendance.